about our conference that will be held Saturday, July the 25th. And we brought all the ladies back together to kind of have a conversation about what it's like to be a woman in business and what inspired you. You have 15 years, 30 years.
Many years.
And many years, and I have 125. So let's start with you. What about some of the pitfalls that you've had? What are the great things and also the pitfalls? You're supposed to go to business. I heard you saying on our break, they really don't have a good idea of what they're getting into until they're into it.
Yeah, and I can definitely vouch because there's times where I think, wow, it would have been a lot easier to go work for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But going to work for someone else was not ever a desire than just what I did with my mentor, which was Miz. But I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so I didn't want to work for anyone because they would make me compromise my skill.
Mm-hmm.
They would put me in a box, and I would lose the integrity of my skill because they wouldn't allow me to do the things that are more healthier for the hair. So that was more of the reason why I went back to business.
Okay. And we know your story. You actually worked in the industry of healthcare before. You actually, we haven't talked about on this show, you have ADHD. And in spite of that, I mean, you have a multi-million-dollar business. Was it 4,000 employees? Several locations throughout the country.
Yes, I have a multitude of businesses, and yes, I was working in the industry. And what empowered me is similar. You know, I was working in different places, and it wasn't that they didn't want to do the things that I wanted to do. It was that their missions didn't allow it. So if I wanted to do things for people, it took for them to have a whole, church dinner to just go buy a refrigerator. And it was like, we just need to buy them a refrigerator. So I started looking at it and saying, I like to run a for-profit business with a non-profit heart,
Wow.
And so I started looking at the service industry and saying, this is what people do not want to do. When you have a bunch of shareholders and everybody's making one decision about, like you say, can I do something more healthy? And it's like, I just think we just need to not meet about this. Let's just buy them a bag of groceries. Those, that was the real reason. Is usually a lot of people get into business when they're not really about business. When you're about your business, then you love your business and you love the people you work for or what you do. For me, I love what I did. I just couldn't do enough of it the way I wanted to when I worked in the industry for other people.
Now, you have a full-time job, correct?
I did.
And like many people, they have a full-time job. They still fulfill their passion, do their own thing. You're an author. I mean, what made you think you could be an author?
I was talking to people about some of the same things over and over and over, and it's like, this is really good information that I'm sharing, and I think it would be great to put it in a small guide, and that way they'll have it at their fingertips because there are worksheets inside of there, because I'm a visual person and I believe that others are oftentimes as well. So when you can actually see your goals written down with specificity to them and to the point, I think you're more apt to accomplish those things. And so that's how I end up just taking a wealth of information that I had acquired and work with a book coach and put it in a book.
Now, what was your biggest risk?
I won't say there was a big risk for me, because when you say risk, that's not having faith or believing in yourself. So I won't say it was a big risk because I know what I can do and I know what I want to give back to people. I wanted a business that wouldn't be, as you would say, a risk. So I wouldn't say that would be in my vocabulary. What was the risk here?
As far as sacrifices, what have you made, do you think?
You forgo things that other people, take for granted. You can't go out with your friends, and you can't, sometimes I couldn't make my son's, games when he played football or lacrosse. You think for the greater good. So you forgo a lot of things. You see people at weddings and say, how old is your child now? And they're like, oh, she's 20. And it was like I seen her when she was born. You forgo a lot of things people take for granted. When you want to go and you can't go
Mhm.
because you have to be dedicated for tomorrow.
That's very true. And Renee, you were talking about some of the realities that people think because they have a skill, that's automatically a business, or because they have a passion, they think that that can be profitable. So, what do you tell people as a coach when they have this idea or so many ideas, and you try to bring them back down to earth? Because passion is strong.
Exactly, because I usually ask, is it a business or is it a hobby?
Mhm.
Is it something that you can actually sustain yourself with as a business? And I encourage them to reach out to others who have been successful, because oftentimes we think we can't reach out to somebody who's doing the same business that
Right,
we are, or we
uh-huh.
aspire to, because they're going to be jealous and they're not going to help us. That's not true all the time, but you have to be thick-skinned enough that if someone doesn't answer your questions, that you pursue someone else, because someone out there is definitely willing to share that expertise. And once you hear what it is that this person is saying, it's like, I really hadn't thought of all of those things.
Right.
So
Uh-huh.
maybe I need to reevaluate this. And it doesn't mean that you don't do it as a hobby and on the side, but you don't quit your day job and starve from it.
Uh-huh. And that's a good point, because for those who are just tuning in, we are having our women's conference July the 25th, and we are talking about some issues that people need to think about, to not just start a business, because we talked about starting a business for years, but we seldom told people, how do you sustain to make it to 30 years, 15 years, 25 years, and as you say, many, many years in business. And so our mission with this conference is to get people to think bigger, jump higher, and leap. And we have some of our speakers here talking about basically sustaining and growing. And as we wrap up, I will ask, what is the greatest thing that you have learned, good, bad, or indifferent? I'll ask all of you, what have you learned in all these years that is the most valuable thing to you?
For myself, it would be patience. I've definitely had to learn patience. And as she mentioned earlier, it's a lot of sacrifices. A lot of people look at business owner, oh, that business owner. No, it's a big sacrifice. Yes.
I agree. Everything she just said, it's the sacrifice of good things. Of course, you make a nice living, however, but sacrifice is the
I mean, being willing to, but some folks are willing
Listen,
to.
whether or not you think you're going to, you're thrown in, or you have to be
Sink
done.
or swim.
You
Uh-huh.
have
Yes,
to be
exactly.
done, and you have to realize it. And I think the sacrifice is the biggest thing that you have to realize. People say, "Oh, I could sacrifice."
You don't really know. You don't
You
know.
really don't know what you're
Yeah.
saying.
And that goes back to what you were saying about collaborating and not being afraid to approach somebody who's in business and ask them how they've done it. I've seen people fail. I think, what if you would have asked somebody? What if there's somebody out there is doing whatever you're doing wrong? They're doing it. They did it wrong and they're doing it right now. I can show you the way. So I hate to see somebody fold up. When there's a wealth of information, people will sit with you. There are organizations designed to assist you.
But as she stated, a lot of times when people call, and specifically when someone calls me, I'm listening to them. And there's times I'm just very direct, and I'll say, I don't think this is for you.
Right.
Based on everything you just told me, the primary things I ask them are, how much time do you have to dedicate to your goal? Is it an endless pit of money around you? What do you define as sacrifice? Are you willing to lose your entire family to do what it is you want to do? Think about it. Oh, right away they're like, oh yeah, I'm willing to do.
Until they get in.
Think about it, because you can't replace the things you'll lose.
Okay. Well, ladies, I want to thank you. In fact, I'm learning something myself here. It's been quite interesting, and I want to invite you folks to go to our website at onyxwoman.com, and we'll also list all the ladies you can contact them. We hope to see you on July the 25th. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thinking of starting your own business? Join us for the Onyx Woman Conference. Go to onyxwoman.com.